A basic principle that the study builds on is that the mind contains what we call schemas. These are very abstract mental representations that represent the outside world, but inside our minds. And it's really valuable because it allows us to kind of mentally play with, well, what if I did this? Or what if this had happened? To imagine scenarios or remember vividly events that we've experienced. But it is very abstract. So if you think now of a dog, right? The image that comes to mind may be a particular dog, but there's a very good chance that that image is kind of a composite of all of the different dogs that you've experienced. And we certainly have this generic dog image. We spend a lot of our time filtering our experience through these kinds of schemas. And the result is that when we engage with the world, much of what we're seeing and experiencing and believe we're looking at is actually what we expect to see rather than what's there. Sometimes we see things that or perceive things that aren't actually there because we're expecting them to be. And sometimes we miss things that we're not expecting to see just because we're not looking for them. The blue bar in the middle, which represents folks in the awe condition who saw the awe-inspiring video, answered more of these questions correctly on average, significantly more so than participants in the other two conditions. And what this indicates is that as they listened to and remembered the story, they were more tuned into the details of the story itself, seeing it and hearing it rather than their expectations, at least to a little bit of a greater extent. We found the same effect in the third study as well. And when we looked at the data from all three studies together in something called a meta-analysis, it's just a single analysis where you take data from different studies and combine them, we found that people in the awe conditions also remembered more story details that weren't in the event script, but were actually in the story. So for example, we asked, was the waiter wearing glasses? And he was, but that's not normally something that you would pick up on if you were really primarily focused on your script. But people in the awe condition across studies were more likely to remember those kinds of details as well. And taken together, this is evidence that awe might really help us let go of whatever's in our minds, detach from that a little bit, put it aside, and experience what's happening in the moment. And those are those now moments that Jeff talks about in the title of this session.